Thank you for joining us. Come on over here. I know you want to get down. Back in 1994, John Stuckey and Louis Miller met, our co-founders at Per Scholas. They met on an airplane ride, and they started to contemplate what kinds of things that they could do to help urban communities. And specifically, they thought it was a brilliant idea to kick off work with an urban community, the one that was the poorest congressional district in the nation, in the Bronx. And so in 1995, Per Scholas was started. And our focus back then was on the digital divide. And so here's the idea. John Stuckey and Louis Miller said, hey, let's contact organizations who had end-of-life computers. So big banks, financial services organizations, they were upgrading computers all the time. What if we brought those computers to our Bronx location and we refurbished them and then put them back out in the community? Sometimes giving them out to schools, at other times charging folks within the community at an affordable price. They could get a refurbished computer as opposed to buying an IBM or a Dell back then. So that was the idea, focusing on the digital divide. We had an assembly line where we cleaned off computers and we brought them back in the community. And we also broke down the computers that didn't work into lead, plastic, and glass. And we send that to downstream providers, and we brought in revenue to the organization. Funny story, when I first came to Per Scholas back in 2005, I met Plinio Ayala, but it wasn't sort of in the office where I expected to see the CEO. He was out on the floor, he had his sleeves rolled up, and he was cleaning down computers just like the other employees. So in the very beginning, we focused on the digital divide as an organization. So in this time period, 2005, 2006, we kicked off a program by the name of Comp2 Kids. And Comp2 Kids was a program in which we worked with middle schools, typically on a Saturday, child and parent together, getting trained on how to use these refurbished computers that I told you about. They would come in, we would teach them about how to use Microsoft. We would teach them, their parent, about how to write a resume. And at the end of their time with us, they would get a new refurbished computer that they would take home. And now, just like all the other kids in the city, they would have a computer that would allow them to participate in the learning that was taking place in their school. We also had a program by the name of Comp2 Seniors. Comp2 Seniors was a 10-week program with senior citizens. Why 10 weeks? Because they were really not comfortable with using a computer. And so it took a little time to really get them sort of educated on how to use the computer. So we would go into senior citizen homes and over senior citizen centers, and over time, they would get a certificate from Per Scholas as well as a new refurbished computer that they would take home, and they would now be comfortable in getting into the 21st century by utilizing a refurbished Per Scholas computer. So through 2006, 2007, 2009, here's a picture of a Per Scholas truck. So back in the day, we had trucks that went through the 5 boroughs of New York City. So they would go down to Barclays, as an example. They would pick up the old computers and they would bring it back to our location, and that's where all our workers would begin to work on those computers. So very innovative, even from the early days. Here are some of the flyers that we distributed on Black Friday, right before Thanksgiving. $175 beat the heat sale, free 15-week training courses. I mean, we were doing both training courses and we had awesome products that we would sell to folks in the community. In 2009, this depicts the breaking ground of Yankee Stadium. And so we were there. So we had our hard hats and we participated in the groundbreaking of Yankee Stadium. And if anybody's in New York City, you know right now it's a gorgeous, gorgeous stadium. One of the things that was incredibly important to Per Scholas as we were growing our business is a random trial control study. And so Private Public Ventures is the organization that we work with, and we were able to show that students who went through our program earned more money, got benefits, were able to improve their lives as a result of going through our 12 to 15-week program. So very, very important in our growth as an organization. Back in 2009, we also rang the bell at the New York Stock Exchange. How awesome is that? Now, I literally remember being up on the pedestal at the New York Stock Exchange and being so incredibly excited, one, and two, thinking, really, this nonprofit is ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange? How exciting. We brought senior citizens who were in our Comp2 Seniors program with us. It was a wonderful, wonderful event. We had board members there as well. And our core is our students, our learners. And back in the day, we would ring the bell every time a learner would get a job. And so it was a celebration. So if a gentleman got a new job at a big company, we would ring the bell and everybody would clap and make noise. And it was, I mean, it reminds you as to why you were here at Per Scholas. It was really about how our learners would get new job opportunities and start their life in the technology sector. Department of Education also were putting a lot of money into getting computers in the hands of seniors and middle school students. So we said, okay, let them do that, and we're gonna focus strictly on training. And at the same time, expand what we were doing here in the Bronx. So our first location in the 2010, 11, 12 timeframe was in Columbus, Ohio, and then in Cincinnati, Ohio. And that is where we began to focus on growing our footprint. And so we then went to Silver Spring, NCR, we went to Dallas, Atlanta. Those were our early expansion sites. And it was incredibly exciting. I was here, Linda Lopez was here in those days, and we would be the folks who would go out to these initial sites and start to bring the community up to speed on what we do at Per Scholas. So here you'll see pictures of our growth over the last 10 years, which has been pretty awesome when you think about it. We started from this place here in the Bronx, 32,000 square feet, and now we're in over 19 different campuses across the nation. How exciting. And growth continues. And so we are looking to continue our growth over the next few years with a target of reaching 10,000 learners by 2026. So incredibly, incredibly exciting. And I personally, being here for 16 years and seeing the growth, continue to be inspired by the work that we do here at Per Scholas. We thought it would be a good idea to spruce up this location in the Bronx. So we hired local artists from the Bronx to come in and learn about our learners. And so we interviewed 4 or 5 different artists from the South Bronx, because what we wanted to do is to give life to 2 murals that we were putting together. And so this mural specifically made by a young Latino woman from the Bronx, we wanted to highlight women in technology as well as diversity within the technology sector. And so this wonderful mirror that speaks to life with branches and trees, which we've used quite often at Per Scholas from a metaphor standpoint, I think this picture represents the future of technology with women. This gentleman, his expertise was hip hop, his expertise was history, and he was very fond of graffiti art. And so we thought that this depiction of learners was quite representative of what people expect to see when they come into a location of learning. So for me, in putting together the 2 murals, we wanted our learners to see themselves when they walk through our doors. Because with that, they have a sense of belonging and they have a vision for what their future might look like once they've secured a technology job.